So yeah, welcome everybody to the second big Wethink conference online on waste circularity. We had a couple of smaller ones on the specific topic of the position paper that the Montan University in Leoben is doing with us, or has actually finished doing with us, yeah, about co-press processing and SRF in the cement industry. And this is the second big conference and basically also the platform where we will, for the first time, kind of talk about the results publicly. Yeah? So I want to say thank you to our sponsors for this year. That is Alpacem, the Ami Blue, Scheuch, the German VDZ, the Cement Association. It's IKN and Kostak from Slovenia, IKN from Germany and Kostak from Slovenia. So thank you very much for your support this year. Yeah? I will now just quickly present you the agenda, or maybe some housekeeping rules, but I will need to stop sharing because I cannot do this at the same time. Yeah? So basically housekeeping, this meeting is recorded. It will take from now to 1300 CET. We record this. We use the recording only for the keynote speakers. So afterwards we'll cut it and then the answers by the panelists. And then we will of course make sure that we ask you again if it's okay to publish it on the Wethink platform. We have a group on waste circularity and also a YouTube channel. Wissam will then share the links in the chat. And basically then in the public discussion, we will not share this. Yeah, so we will cut this out. So you can basically speak about whatever you want. Yeah. Basically 4 questions. So we really want you to start discussing with us and the panelists and between each other, because we have a very knowledgeable audience and also some very amazing discussions in the last meetings. So how to do this? It's basically there is a raise your hand function. That would be the ideal solution. It's in the bottom of the screen under reactions. There's a smiley. You can click there. You can also clap and, I don't know, send a heart icon or raise your hand. This is, maybe the favorite thing, yeah? If you're not able to do this, if you don't find it, you can just, mute your mic and see, if nobody else is speaking, then just start speaking. Or alternatively, you can also put your questions in the chat. So we have a chat here, and basically you can put your questions there. I would then ask you to read them yourselves because it's nicer, but if you want to kind of grab everybody's attention, put the questions in there. Maybe you don't want to forget it during the keynotes, you can just put them there. It would be really nice if you would then post them yourselves if you're not unable for some reason. I can do it or Wissam will do it, but that would of course be nicer. Yeah. So yeah, please unmute. Don't forget to unmute yourself when you speak, yeah, because you're automatically on mute. And after you have stopped speaking, be so kind and mute yourself, or we will mute you. It's just better, because often there's some interferences. Yeah. So yeah, welcome everybody again. So this is the second meeting of the waste circularity, Wethink waste circularity working group. Just really shortly, our goals with this group is to bring together companies, municipalities, regulatory stakeholders in the EU and national member states, or also not member states in Europe. Yeah. And we want to bring them together to exchange best practices, regularly write position papers, and establish or help or support in establishing projects to improve waste circularity. This is the big goal. And this year, the goal, or we have been focusing explicitly on RDF, SRF. There was a strong focus there. We did a position paper with the Montan University in Leoben. They will also do the first keynote. And we are basically have been looking at collecting a lot of literature that is existing and then summarizing it in a very understandable position paper for the general audience, and also so there's several versions, the general audience and then also the regulatory authorities, in order to support the discussions on where we stand with quality and quality assurance and co-processing of SRF, specifically with a focus on cement industry, because we have a lot of participants from the cement industry. And that leads me to the agenda. We will basically have the first keynote on this position paper. So that is then the contribution of alternative fuels to the waste circularity goals of the EU is the topic. And it will be done by Professor Renato Sarc of the University of Leoben. And we also have here Professor Pomberger, but today more in a supporting role, and then also able to answer questions. Yeah. So this will be the first keynote. Then we have the second keynote. This is going to be about quality assurance systems for solid recovered fuels in Austria, status quo and development. And we have here the diplom engineer. Yeah, I actually don't know what the English equivalent is. Engineer. Yeah. Monika Denner of the Umweltbundesamt. So this is the Ministry for Climate Protection, or this is basically the environmental agency part of the Ministry for Climate Protection in Austria. I will then do a more thorough introduction just before the keynote. Then afterwards, just that you've heard the whole story. Then at 11, more or less, so 20 to 30 minutes for each keynote. At 11, more or less, we will go into the panel discussion. And the idea of the panel discussion is basically to lead over into a general discussion. Yeah. So panelists, we have 2 questions prepared for each panelist. The answer should be 3 to 5 minutes. Yeah, we are not gonna like extremely look at the clock here, but more or less 3 to 5 minutes. And we will do 2 rounds, one after each other. We will have 2 questions for each panelist, and then basically, ideally, we would already collect your questions and then lead really seamlessly over into an open discussion. Yeah? We have in the panel today, of course, the keynote speaker. So that is Renato Sarc, and also here Professor Pomberger, and then, of course, Monika Denner. Then we have Thomas Schwuk, the CEO of Salonit cement plant in Slovenia. We have then also Hans Mooshammer, Dr. Hans Mooshammer of the Medical University in Vienna. We have Bojan Pahor of Saubermacher in Slovenia, waste management company. And we have Robert Uvek of CRH, a cement company. Yeah? I will do a more thorough introduction just before the panel, so you've heard their names again. So this is basically the panel. We will then do a short wrap up, and then, yeah, that's it for today. So I'm already speaking quite a long time. So I will need to hurry up. So yeah, basically I would start with the first keynote now. If I haven't forgotten anything, Wolfgang, I hope I said everything. I will start with the first keynote. Yeah, super. So that is Renato Sarc. He's a chair of waste processing technology and waste management of the Austrian Montan University of Leoben, and together with Professor Pomberger, he wrote our position paper. And they're both very well-known experts in the field of waste treatment, management, and energy recovery. And yeah, we will hear the first keynote. Maybe after the keynote, I forgot to mention this, we will have time for some immediate questions and answers. So and also after the keynote of Monika Denner. Yeah. Good. I see the screen. I also hear you, probably, Renato, and then
perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes. I hope you can see the screen, the presentation, and everything. Yeah. I may say also good morning and welcome to everyone. Professor Roland Pomberger and I have prepared and elaborated this presentation. So we have just a second, I will organize it on my screen. To see too much to see the presentation. The topic is the contribution of alternative fuels to the waste circularity goals of the EU. And it's about alternative fuels, it's about waste management, and mainly it's about the connection between waste sector and cement industry sector and their contribution to the circular economy. Short introduction. I will just do it very shortly. Maybe one important topic that is relevant for this presentation. Together with Monika Denner, I also work in the National Committee of Austrian Standards Institute, and I'm also, together with Monika, Austrian delegate in the ISO TC 300 community. So we together work in the standardization procedure where different standards are elaborated. And all the other topics, most of you know me. My colleague, Professor Pomberger, he's the chair, head of the chair, worked in private sector for many years, has developed several projects in the field of waste management, waste fuels, and cooperations with cement industry. Yes, I think you can read this also later on. Let's go into the topic. When it's about circular economy, then we want to talk about the future. Very important topic is to understand the past. So the circular economy is not a new topic, but it's a newly regulated topic. The first environmental action plan in Europe was in the 70s. Then later on, several laws and directives have been published, but in 2015, Circular Economy Action Plan was adopted, and it's about saving of resources. Next important topic is Paris Agreement. It's about climate protection. It's about CO2 emissions, and alternative fuels have also their contribution when they are used in cement industry, also contribute to this topic. Then 2018, very important topic is plastic strategy that also discussed the topic plastics and how we should treat plastics in future. It's a very important part because plastics is also contained in waste fuels and it contributes to the fossil CO2 emissions. So it's also about alternative fuels. Very important topic is landfill directive. If we stop landfilling and develop alternatives, then we will treat the waste and we will ensure secondary resources and secondary energy, and therefore landfill directives sets the aim limit with 10% by 2035. Then the European Green Deal from 2019. You see at this time some mandatory recycled content in products is obliged and defined. So this is very important because based on this topic, also in other waste sectors and in other waste types, this topic is something that will come. Next regulation is taxonomy regulation, and finally Fit for 55 climate package. So you see, if you want to understand in which direction, in which way waste sector is moving next 15 to 20 years, then you can check these regulations, because waste sector is mainly defined by law and regulations. If you understand what's the law, then you also will understand in which direction waste sector is going to be developed. It's about recycling, it's about energy recovery, and it's about combination of recycling and energy recovery, and not about landfilling in future. What does it mean? It means that if you consider the phased development from non-consideration, landfilling, then up to logistics and infrastructure, to recycling and recovery solutions, we are now in the Middle Europe, in the phase 5, industrial circular economy, and phase 6 is the future, means raw material and energy management for our production industry. So in Europe, we have 27 countries within the EU and some other countries in Europe, but not within the EU. All countries can be positioned in one of these phases, depending on waste type, of course. Phases can be very different, but the crucial topic is that everything that is connected to the landfilling should be stopped in best situation or reduced to 10%, and then the material and energy-based waste management should be developed. What does it mean nowadays? Nowadays, when we are talking about industrial circular economy, we also have to be aware of topics digitalization, environmental awareness, circular economy, but on the other side, also about safety at work, efficiency, costs, and volatile markets. So if you want to sell some recyclates, the situation on the market currently is very volatile. So it's also about costs and other topics. Nevertheless, in next 10 to 15 years, we can expect significant changes and also in waste sector. What's about in circular economy? It's not just about waste. Modern waste management means you have to consider life cycle assessment, eco-design, cascadic use, more recycling, and so on, up to the ecological problems, and all these topics are circular economy. So to focus just on waste is today maybe enough, but tomorrow will not be enough. We have to think about all other topics when we are talking about waste management too. Cement industry is, of course, part of the circular economy, and there are different possibilities how and where waste can be used in the cement industry. We have secondary raw materials, waste materials that are used as alternative materials for primary raw materials. Then we have waste fuels that are used in the cement industry. And we have also secondary waste or secondary raw materials that are used as supplementary cementitious materials. So you can see there are different possibilities at material, but also at energy level, how waste can be used in the cement industry. When it's about RDF, this topic is considered nowadays as co-processing. Co-processing means that you have an industrial process where at the same time energy recovery and recycling of the mineral content of waste material is carried out. So at the end of the day, you substitute both. On one side, primary fossil fuels, and on the other side, primary mineral resources. So, and therefore, and that's why we are talking about co-processing of waste fuels in the cement industry. What are SRF? SRF are solid recovered fuels, means waste fuels that are produced just from non-hazardous waste. It's also about quality and quality assurance. Colleague Monica Denner is going to talk about quality and quality assurance, so I will not use some other words about this topic. And it's also about energy recovery. Finally, there is an international standard from the year 2021, so it's the newest standard. Some of you will know the old one, 15359. So it's the newest version is 21640, and when it's about classifications, then we talk about heating value, chlorine content, and mercury content. So SRF is a subgroup of RDF of all waste fuels, alternative fuels that are used in a cement production process. When talking about SRF types, we distinguish between two types. SRF for primary burning possibilities in the cement industry, so primary burner, having high heating value between 18 and 25 megajoule per kilogram, and very small particle size up to 35 millimeters. SRF secondary, as the name says, is used in the secondary firing systems in the cement industry, has a little bit lower heating value between 12 and 18 megajoule per kilogram, and particle sizes up to 300 millimeters, depending on the technology, firing technology applied. What's the situation in Austria? In Austria, about 570,000 tons of waste fuels are used annually in the cement industry. If you take a look on the thermal substitution rate describes the ratio, how much of energy is coming from waste and how much of energy is coming from fossil fuels. Then you see that last year, almost 82% in average over the whole Austrian cement industry, 82% of energy was produced by utilization of waste fuels. Also, the fact in Austria we have the highest substitution rate in the world. Already 10 years ago, during my PhD time, we also have technically tested for several weeks in a cement kiln in Austria the 100% thermal substitution rate. It's technically possible, it's proven, and nowadays in this plant where I have made several tests for my PhD, in average the thermal substitution rate is higher than 95% per year. What's the international situation? As you can see, Poland, Czech, Austria, Germany, the substitution rate is higher than 70%. So most of energy is coming from waste and not from primary, most fossil fuels. In Europe, the average is 50%, worldwide 20%, but nevertheless, also Europe and world will increase their thermal substitution rate next years because topic alternative fuels are very important also worldwide because of different topics, climate change, a reduction of decarbonization and reduction of CO2 emissions and so on. As I said before, they are not only in Austria, but also internationally some plants where thermal substitution rates are in average more than 95%. And this topic is actually state of the art and widely accepted by authorities and public. So in Austria, we don't discuss this topic. Actually, it's state of the art and it works perfectly. Which contribution can cement industry and SRF from municipal waste has in municipal waste sector? So the cement industry cannot take over mixed municipal waste as you know it. There is a system behind, so the waste sector must produce quality assured waste fuels. It means waste from households is mostly separately collected. Paper, plastics, and other materials are recycled. Bio-waste is recycled, and mixed waste and residues from recycling procedures are on one side incinerated. So like, for example, in the city of Vienna, where most mixed residual waste is incinerated, or alternative is the treatment in a MBT plant, mechanical and biological treatment plant, where different types and qualities, as mentioned before, SRF primary and secondary, are produced. And these waste fuels are used in the field of co-incineration. It means also the cement plant, also a cement plant is positioned here. So cement plant is part of the waste management system, yes. Some amounts are used for production of waste fuels, but not all waste. Other wastes are mainly recycled, and that what is not recyclable is used for production of SRF only. And this contribution is from the municipal waste sector. When it's about utilization of waste fuels in the cement industry, there is also a new topic very important. It's called recycling index. Recycling index means when you have co-processing of SRF in the cement industry, as we said before, you use the energy contained in the SRF, but the ash from the SRF becomes part of product clinker. So it means for this ash, there is a development of an international standard. It's called Determination of the Recycling Index for Co-Processing. Monica Denner and I work in the group, and I have the pleasure to be the head of this topic. Publication of the standard, new standard, is expected for February next year, and this is also an important contribution to responsible consumption and production, but also to the climate action. Now, if you go to internet, Dr. Google will give you information about the current status of this standard. there is a pre-standard available, and as you can see, it's very important. This standard will on one side be European standard, so it means European standard ISO on the left side, but will also be one ISO standard, means application of the standard worldwide. So this is very important topic. Why this standard is published, but also other standards, because in this field there are a lot of scientific data, scientific publications, and Professor Pomberger and I have also published a lot of papers in this field, alternative fuels and their utilization in the cement industry, as you can see in various international journals. So, and based on these internationally published data, together with Wethink, we have discussed the topic, how could we present the data in a very simple but scientifically correct way to you, and therefore we thought and discussed the topic questions. And from my point of view, maybe not since 25, but since 15 years, but from the point of view of my colleague, Professor Pomberger, since 25 years, there are always the same questions in waste sector when it's about alternative fuels in the cement industry. And to answer these questions, we have elaborated circularity position paper on manufacturing quality assurance and co-processing of SRF in cement industry. So it's a newly elaborated paper, a position paper that deals with different topics. What we have focused on is technical argumentation of advantages, strengths, and opportunities of using SRF for stakeholders and decision makers. We consider different areas of the RDF value chain. And finally, this document is elaborated based on international norms, regulations, guidelines, technical standards, and scientific publications and reports. So we are not talking about the topics that have been 50 years ago. We are talking about the topics that are currently, that are now, that are important, and that are state of the art and science. What's the content? In total, we have 8 chapters, and in each chapter we have questions defined. You see the chapters on the left side, from basics, resources and energy, emissions, environment, landfill problems, solutions, circular economy, and experiences. I'm not going to answer every single question now. Maybe we can discuss some questions later on in the discussion round. But what are the questions? When it's about basics, then which waste is the raw material for SRF production? How is SRF produced? What is composed of? And about quality assurance. Then regarding resources and energy, which utilization options are generally available in the kiln? Which wastes are produced after SRF utilization? Why is SRF utilization energy recovery and recycling? And it's about energy efficiency compared to other possibilities. Then we write also about emissions. What are the differences between primary and secondary waste fuels? As you can see, SRF and coal regarding heavy metals, organic pollutants, topic harmful to people and environment. Later on, a colleague from the Medical University of Vienna can also discuss this topic. SRF utilization and the topic dioxins and furans. In most cases, when you have a public procedure, you are confronted to the topic dioxins and furans. So we also have elaborated this topic. What about greenhouse gas emissions, resource conservation, environmental problems in cement plants because of RDF and SRF utilization? Next topic, landfill problems. Why is landfilling of municipal waste an environmental problem? Why is SRF manufacturing and utilization better technology than landfilling? How does SRF utilization reduce landfilling? You see, we also discuss the topic landfill problems, because if you remember to one of the first slides that I have shown you, the phased development of waste sector, landfill is actually the starting point in every single country. But nowadays, in most countries, you should have this circular economy phase. This is not the situation, so we have to move from landfill to circular economy, and therefore we also talk about landfill problems. What's the solution? Of course, solution is circular economy, and there are general questions that are always set. Does SRF utilization compete with recycling or support recycling? And the final chapter, experiences. Does SRF utilization support illegal waste shipments, and how is SRF transponder shipment regulated in Europe? Is the economic efficiency of cement industry improved by the uses of SRF? Then it's about energy independency. Which countries had the most increase of SRF utilization in the last years? How much greenhouse gases have been reduced? And when we talk about sustainability, we also have to talk about social and employment effect of various waste systems in Europe. So also the contribution of SRF production and utilization in cement industry is discussed regarding social and employment effects. To whom is this paper addressed? Actually, at the end of the day, everybody interested in facts on SRF co-processing and cement industry. At the end of the day, SRF and utilization in the cement industry is one sometimes also emotional topic, but if you want to read this paper, then you should focus on facts, and if you accept the facts, then also maybe the topic will be much more accepted. Some conclusions. Position paper, Ingo and colleagues will later on discuss the topic, and this document is available via Wethink. As I said before, this document gives facts based on science and shows that SRF utilization has positive environmental effects. But SRF utilization in cement industry is a puzzle piece in a modern circular resources and energy management system. So you need recycling, you need also other topics and waste treatment plants to solve municipal waste problem. But SRF utilization in cement industry can also contribute and support the development of energy recovery solutions, because in most countries, cement industry is available, and waste to energy technology has to be built first. So all technologies have their part in the whole system, and SRF is also part of the modern waste management. Finally, from scientific point of view, very useful secondary resource and energy, environmentally beneficial, and part of a circular economy development. So finally, I can conclude SRF and utilization in the cement industry are must if we want to ensure waste management developments in Europe, if we want to develop and support production capacities in Europe, and if we want to develop carbon neutral and decarbonized economy in Europe, then also the cement industry has to transfer from fossil to non-fossil, and SRF, with its biogenic content, it's also a very important part for this further transformation of the cement production industry in Europe. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Super, Professor Sarc. Thank you very much for this overview. And before we go to the next keynote, are there any immediate questions that from the audience that we should discuss now? We can also, of course, ask questions later. Yeah. Okay, so very good presentation. No questions.
There's a question in the chat.
There's a question in the chat. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Juraj Cic
from
okay.
Ecorec.
better pronunciation. You want to post a question yourself? Unmute yourself.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
Question was what is the future with the recycling percentage, recycling index of the SRF, because it's widely used, SRF, 1 million tons every year in Europe. And is it at the moment country per country standards that if country accepts the SRF partially as a recycling, and will be there any common approach on the European level? What is your vision, how quickly it could be implemented and whether it will be implemented at all?
Thank you, Jura, for this question. Maybe just correct information. When it's about utilization of waste fuels in Europe, currently there are about 12 million tons of waste fuels used in European cement industry. So this is the current situation on the market. When it's about recycling index standard, as I showed, standard should be published next year. And next year, the European Framework Directive will not be revised, but the next revision of the European Framework Directive is planned for 2027. And in the part of this European Framework Directive, it's written that if there are new standards supporting the topic recycling and explaining the topic recycling in Europe, then this will be considered when new European Waste Framework Directive is elaborated. So our motivation is to publish the standard next year and support the procedure that the standard will be considered when next revision of Waste Framework Directives is done. So this is, of course, our motivation. Standard will or should be used also for the topic recycling quotas. Of course, there is still discussion ongoing. In waste fuels, you have different waste types, but if the origin is clearly defined and shown, then also recycling quota maybe could be used for different sectors because you wrote for packaging recycling targets. This is also one of motivations that waste coming from packaging sector that is not recycled is used in cement industry, that by applying recycling index method, also this topic can be covered. So standard should define the method how recycling index should be calculated, and the allocation, I hope that it will be considered 27 and in next years in the European law.
Super, thank you very much. Any more immediate questions I didn't see, maybe?
Hello.
Ah, yeah, Anton, hi.
My name is Anton, CRH Ukraine, responsible for the alternative fuel supply in cement plants in Ukraine. I just wanted to clarify exactly the question that was raised by the Uri regarding the standard, because pardon, but I'm not familiar with the standard. Is that about it is about two things as far as I understand. The first is that to show that ash content that is in the process is actually not just the ash content, but this is recovery of the waste. And the second is that you just mentioned packaging industry, they are interested exactly in the recycling and not in recovery. Am I correct?
Yes, you are correct. So it's about ash content of the SRF. So after SRF is burnt in the kiln, the ash that remains becomes part of the clinker. And there we talk about the substitution of primary materials and how this substitution content is to be determined. This is exactly what's about in this standard. And when you get then the figures from the analysis, then the next topic is how to use these figures. And one of the possibilities is, for example, for the recycling quota for packaging waste. Exactly.
Clear. It's too early for us maybe to dive in such things in Ukraine, because Unfortunately, we are even lower than 20%, like the middle worldwide IF usage. But it should be useful in the nearest years. Thanks a lot for the explanation and the presentation. It was interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anton. Thank you for joining also. And Gert, I see you raised your hand.
Yes, thank you, Tudor. Just to come back to the question of recycling index, it's very interesting that in the proposals for the revision of the Waste Framework Directive, the Commission, the European Parliament proposes to give member states the possibility to count the use of minerals in co-processing to account for the recycling targets of municipal solid waste. So that's very interesting, of course. So the proposal is that the use of minerals in SRF, when used in co-processing, could be counted to the recycling target of municipal solid waste by member states. So then indeed the recycling index, as now developed by ISO, will become very important, of course.
Yes, thank you, Gerd. This was exactly the motivation why we started together with Umweltbundesamt and Ms. Monika Denner and our colleague from Ministry and from Austria, when we started this international topic based mainly on the national data from our research projects. But this is actually the vision of the procedure and of all this effort we are doing regarding recycling index. Yes.
Things come together here. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
So may I ask also a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
No problem.
Renato, excellent presentation. So thank you very much. But maybe you have heard in the last 2 weeks, there were negotiations in Nairobi, and there was also University of Göteborg that mentioned that when we are talking about recycling, that we accumulate heavy metals in this plastic. So that means on one day we are not able to recycle plastic anymore. So does it mean we have to co-process more than now on fossil hydrocarbons, or is there any other solution when we are talking about the recycling index?
Mm-hmm. So when it's about quality, there are different possibilities for recycling. On one side, we have mechanical recycling. Then the next topic that is now in development in Europe, where a lot of documents are elaborated, is chemical recycling of plastics. And when these two technologies are not able to recycle, then energy recovery in combination with recycling, as I said before, the term co-processing is of course one part of a solution. So when heavy metals are accumulated in a certain amount that these materials cannot be recycled, then we will need other solutions, and utilization in a cement industry is of course solution. So it's also about cascadic use of products and recyclates in the circular economy, and depending on the cascaded cycle, it could be that some materials will not be able for recycling because of their contaminations. We should not forget that the standards and quality aspects on products nowadays are becoming stricter and stricter and stricter. So to use old waste for development of new products, maybe it will not be possible for every product we have on the market now.
Super, thank you. And Roland has a question. Nice, thank you.
May I add something to this discussion? You know, that's an old discussion. It's an old discussion, but we have to be very careful with it. You know, the old discussion or the argument is, if we have heavy metals in the plastic, if we go to recycling, the heavy metals will increase. They will always increase. But this is not right. You know, we have to be very careful. There is an accumulation, yeah? but this accumulation cannot increase on a long time because that's against thermodynamics. Yeah? It just increases to a special level. And the question is, which level is acceptable? Yeah, that's the main question. I know we have not published it, but we have done some models and calculations about RDF in cement plant, and if it goes then to the concrete, and if it goes back, and you know, if we see the long circles, it does not increase. It does not increase permanently. Yeah. It increases, but to a special level. And the main question is, which level is acceptable? So we have to be very careful with this argument, because if it is argumented too shortly, it's sometimes
can be misunderstood.
Misunderstood.
Yes.
But maybe there are some, let's say, stakeholders who want to hear this argument, yeah, to argue against recycling. Yeah, you know, that's maybe the background.
So finally, it's about quality, yes, and therefore I'm happy that also Monica Denner is going to talk about quality, and much more important about quality assurance, yes, because quality assurance is a precondition for describing the quality, and if the quality assurance is done properly, then we can talk about proper qualities.